So come back to the feeling inside yourself of gratitude for the generosity you've received in your life, from people taking care of you, feeding you, teaching you, encouraging you, giving you skills, even giving you your job. Yeah, really let yourself feel like you've been the recipient of tremendous kindness and tremendous generosity. And let arise within yourself the wish to have that same kind of kindness and generosity in your own heart. And with gratitude, then be able to give to others. Even giving by practicing the Dharma, so that you can increase your capability to give. Okay, how is everybody? Yeah, our last morning in this course together. What? Oh, we're live. Yeah, I know. Ding, 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 ding. um, yeah, so people took precepts today, right? Everybody taken. So it's really wonderful. You know, when you're doing the precept prayer, it actually tells you, it encourages the motivation. You know, why am I doing this? Yeah, to, increase the 37 aids to awakening, to overcome hunger, and so on and so forth. And so you see the benefits of what you're doing. And it also, the verse that you recite 3 times, also talks about the motivation. You know, we're doing this for the sake of all sentient beings. And so even though you're only eating 1 meal today, yeah, and you may have hunger or you may not, and I know you're already in cold turkey because you've gone 3 days without coffee, and and meat, and all these harsh things we do at the Abbey that we don't let you have. Then, uh, you know, it really helps us touch back, what is my motivation? Why am I doing this? And to really see how keeping ethical conduct benefits ourselves. And when by restraining from harmful actions, how we then in turn benefit other people right here and now. And we create the causes, the virtuous karma for good future rebirth, because ethical conduct is the cause for good rebirth, among other things. But it's what's the principal cause for good rebirth? Ethical conduct. How do you keep ethical conduct? Refraining from the 10 non-virtues, and especially by keeping precepts. So, for lay people, that means the 5 lay precepts. Monastics, we have our own set of precepts that are like expansions of the 5 precepts. So it's quite important to really see how ethical conduct helps us and all society, because if you think about it, what would the newspapers report if everybody took just the first precept today? If everybody just for 1 day took the precept to abandon killing, what would the world be like? What would the newspapers report? Yeah, news front page would be blank. And if what about just lying? The lying and cheating that happens so often in white-collar jobs. Yeah, what would happen if people stopped that for one day? Yeah, then again, front page would be blank. So you really begin to see, sometimes we say, oh, how can I contribute to world peace? I'm just one individual. Well, what would happen if Hitler had taken the precepts, or Stalin or Mao Zedong? Yeah, or some of our presidents in this country, or Congress members or whoever. I mean, and then you begin to see the force of just one person keeping even one precept. It means, for example, when we have the precept to not kill, and don't we don't just abandon killing, but any kind of physical harm to others, that means other people can feel safe about us, around us. Wherever we are, it's dark, it's light, it's, who knows what's going on, people can feel safe around us. That's a big contribution to world peace. Okay, we keep the second precept not to take what hasn't been freely given. So here we're not just talking into, not breaking into people's houses at 2:00 in the morning and stealing their stereos. Well, nobody has stereos anymore. But, it doesn't refer to that. It refers to not taking what hasn't been freely given to us. Yeah. So not using things at your workplace for your own personal use, avoiding paying taxes that you need to pay. Yeah. Imagine what the US budget would be if people paid the taxes that they needed to pay, if there weren't so many loopholes. Now people could say, well, I'm not really breaking the law, because the law has these loopholes in it, especially for rich people. But think about it on a moral, an ethical line. Is it really fair if you make tons of money not to pay your fair share of taxes, even if it's legal not to do it? On an ethical level. Who was it? Warren Buffett said that he pays less taxes than his secretary. Is that right? I don't care what the law is. Yeah. On an ethical level, as human beings, sharing a society, needing to take care of everybody. Yeah. Can we justify that? Okay. So you see, if we don't take what hasn't been given, society, freely given, society would be quite different. And also it means that, just on a level here, you can leave your things around and nobody's gonna take them. If you leave them too long, we will move them. And then you will go on an Easter egg hunt to find them again. But nobody's going to take them. Okay. Lying, or no, sexual misconduct. Again, how many problems happen because of unwise and unkind sexual behavior? How many families break up because of it? How many people get sick from STDs because of it? How many people are emotionally hurt? Okay, so we again begin to see that, we can really contribute to peace in society by refraining from negative actions ourselves. Lying, I just talked about. Imagine if everybody did their business above board. Yeah, of course, siphoning off the stuff that falls under stealing, but it also falls under lying, because white-collar crimes, you usually have to lie to steal, okay? So you have double trouble. But, what would happen if the public could really trust institutions in this country and individuals who have responsibility in these institutions not to lie to them and not to siphon off public money? But to really use it for the good of the community. We say, well, that's one of the things why Afghanistan, went down so quickly. The government was corrupt, and ours isn't. Yeah. If you haven't watched Ken Burns' series on the Vietnam War, watch it. Okay. And also news is coming out now how the government lied to us about the state of affairs in Afghanistan for many years and said, oh, everything's going well when it wasn't. Okay, so yeah, ethical conduct is really the basis of people living together harmoniously. And as individuals, we have to contribute to that. We can't just go around pointing the finger at other people. And this was one of the things on a personal level that led me to take precepts, as I realized that I kind of had a double standard there. When the government lied, when the military lied, when, that was horrible. Yeah, when that was horrible, when they lied, horrible, dreadful, corrupt. When I lied, it was to avoid hurting other people's feelings. So my lying was good. Yeah, I was being kind by not hurting other people's feelings. And then I realized, what was I doing that I didn't want to hurt other people's feelings by letting them know that I did those things? Okay, what was I doing? I was doing all sorts of not very nice things. Okay, so I saw it, yeah, when they lied, it was bad. When I lied, it was good. When they did bad business, bad. When I avoided paying things, fees, and so on that I should pay, that was good. Yeah. So I began to see, really, I have a double standard. And, if I can reap benefit from doing unethical activities, I always had a good reason for doing it. Never a bad reason, because I wasn't a bad person. Yeah. But those other people, when they did it, was very bad. Okay. And when I saw that, I said, I have to get my act together. This is not right. I'm not even living by my own standards. Yeah. And so, then you begin to see the force of what one person can do. And if we harm others, it can have a lot of boomerang effects. Not just boomerang, ripple effects. Yeah, as well as boomerang effects. It comes back to us. Yeah, but when we act ethically and we restrain ourselves from these kinds of actions, it also has ripple effects. And we stop the harm, and then other people see it and they stop harming as well. So, yeah, it has a lot of effect. And similarly, when we do virtuous activities, we don't have to announce them to the world, but people see and then they get inspired. Okay, just walking over here, Venerable Deki was commenting to me. Why don't you say what you said to me? I mean, she was saying how some people's virtuous activities influenced her.
Yeah, just your story about Dr. James yesterday and just his incredible generosity and how that can have a ripple effect of inspiring others, and how we don't see that nearly as much in the US, of just that outpouring of generosity without expecting anything in return.
Yeah, because these are people in Singapore and Malaysia. Well, James is in Singapore, but our lunch being sponsored, people in Malaysia also. They're probably never going to come here. Why are they giving food to build to us? Why are they helping build the Buddha Hall? Because they have faith in the three jewels, and they see that it's something good, and they want to contribute, whether they benefit personally or not. And when you really think about it, it's, for me anyway, it's just mind blowing. Yeah. And you know, it's really indicative of what it means to have a kind heart and a compassionate heart. Yeah. So we, you know, what my main point is, what we do makes a difference. Yeah. We shouldn't say, I'm only one person. What I do doesn't make any difference. It does make a difference. Yeah. And what we do, either on the positive end or the negative end, influences other people. So, yeah, we have a precious human life. We have the opportunity to do a lot of good. You know, let's use our life in a good way. Yeah. And again, you know, people will say, well, but, you know, you need to be famous to be able to do a lot of good. You know, Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, you know, you have to be like them to really do good. But the Dalai Lama and Mother Teresa don't live in our families. They don't go to our workplaces. They don't have the relationship with our friends that we do. Yeah, we have the possibility to influence the people, you know, that we come in contact with uh, in a way that the very famous people don't have that opportunity to do. Okay, so you know, to really think about how our actions influence not only ourselves, but and not only particular individuals, but all of society. Yeah.
I was thinking when you were talking about lying, obviously I don't condone big lies, but those small white lies that we tell people, you know, for instance, somebody comes and asks me, you know, what do you think about me? And if I tell them honestly what I think about them, I don't necessarily think it's going to lead to a more peaceful or harmonious relationship between the two of us. So I was trying to get, you know, what your take on that is, those white lies that we tell people just because, you know, we don't want to, you know, bother them with what we actually think about them, because I don't think it, you know, necessarily lead to, you know, a better relationship or a more peaceful relationship.
Do people actually ask you what you think about them?
Well, they don't, but they ask you about, you know, oh, what do you think? I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And if I tell them honestly, I don't think this is a good idea, like we're probably not going to have a relationship because they don't want to hear that in that moment.
Well, if they're people who can't hear constructive advice after they've asked for the advice, and they're going to go ahead and do something negative even after they've asked for advice from their friend, and their friend with sincerity has given them proper advice, are those the people you want to have as good friends?
Probably not, but it's just, you know, I was thinking about, like, a friend asked me about a relationship that he was getting into, and I told him it's not a good idea to get into it. And then it turns out like he went into it anyways, didn't work out, but our relationship didn't last until that point because he didn't like what I told him. He didn't want to hear the truth, but I feel like had I been a part of his, you know, friend group or whatever, along the way I would have been able to nudge him to take a better route. I felt like my presence would have helped him rather than just like cutting off the relationship because of that.
But giving advice that people don't want to hear doesn't mean the relationship is going to end. Okay? When people ask us for advice, then they're not just asking any old person. They're asking somebody that they trust will give them good advice. Because if they didn't want advice, they wouldn't ask for it. And if they do ask for advice, they should be ready to hear it. And if they don't hear it, that's their problem, not our problem. Because they're the ones who requested the advice. Okay? So I think, especially if it's friends, and somebody says, oh, I'm thinking of doing this business deal, and you look at it and you say, this isn't good. Yeah. Or, I have this kind of relationship and I'm, dating this one and dating that one, plus I'm married. What do you think about it? It helps that person to tell the truth. And they asked. And then if they get mad, that's totally their business. But you've planted the seeds. And, this happens to me a lot. Sometimes people will ask me what I think, and I tell them. I don't go and say, you're really a jerk for doing this. That's not how I respond. But I just say, think about it. If you act this way, what are the kind of results that are likely to come? If you refrain from that and act in this other way, what are the kind of results that are likely to come? So before you make a decision, think about the results, and not just the immediate results, but the long-term results and how you're going to influence other people, and wait a while to decide. So I'll say it like that. Yeah. And then, if they reject it, that's fine. That's their thing. It's not my thing. Yeah. I said something with compassion because I care. Yeah. And if they get mad, really, that's not the kind of person that I'm going to be good friends with anyway. Somebody who's going to go ahead and do something unethical or harmful. So it doesn't mean I'm like, oh, get away from me. I'm not going to talk to you again. You're a horrible person. I'm just not close friends with them again. And that's okay. That's okay.
I guess that's the part that I was struggling with. I think I learned this the hard way, that people have this notion of what they want to hear. So when they ask you a question, if you don't match up to what they want to hear, they're like, well, I don't like it. I don't like you because of it now. And so it's just like, we're just better off not being friends.
Yeah. If your duty as a friend is only to support their negative actions by telling them what they want to hear, are you being a good friend? When we only tell people what they want to hear, are we being a good friend? Yeah. Do you want people who are only going to tell you what you want to hear? I'm not telling you what you want to hear right now. Yeah. You want me to say, oh, yes, it's fine. Just tell other people what they want to hear and keep the friendship, and that's okay. I'm not telling you that. Yeah. Am I being a better friend to you than somebody who says, oh, yes, just, butter people up. That's okay. Yeah. Who are you going to trust? Trust is a very important thing in our lives. And who are we going to trust? Just people who butter us up, who tell us what we want to hear. Is Kevin McCarthy your role model? Yeah, you know who Kevin McCarthy is? Yeah. Is he who you want to emulate? You want to brown nose to a bully? Yeah. Or, is Adam Kinzinger, is he more a person that you respect? Yeah. So this is something very, very important in our lives. You know, who do we trust? What are our standards? Because telling people what they want to hear, we were talking before about people pleasers. Yeah, that's people pleasing behavior, isn't it? It looks like you're being kind, but you're really manipulating somebody to like you. Okay. So I think it's much better to be honest and direct about things, especially if someone asks. Yeah, this is a good question. Thank you for bringing it up. See, now I said something nice to you. Do you like me again? Please, 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 please. Yeah.
In relationship to that same question, I have started asking people if they're ready for the answer.
Mm-hmm.
People come to me with a question and they ask me, "Are you ready for my question or for my feedback?" And I said, "Sure, but then are you ready for my answer?" Because I find that they've prepared themselves. That's wonderful to ask a question and have this conversation, but they may not even have thought that the answer that I'm going to give them may not be in the realm of what they've considered, And so rather than being shocked with what I'm going to say, I want to make sure they are open to whatever response I got. And there's also even another alternative, and it is, as the recipient of your question, I also have the choice not to answer. And people sometimes don't consider that either. They think that just because they come with an answer, that then I am obliged to give. Just because they've come with a question, they think that I'm obliged to give an answer. And it's entirely within my purview to say, I don't feel like answering that question. I don't have to answer that question. And sometimes taking that choice is better than to answer a question. So I've I've worked with myself to clarify these are the options that I have in order to keep my connection with this person and with myself too. So those are the things.
Yeah, I think that's very good. Yeah. Because like I told you before, with the yes but people, I stop answering their questions. With the people who just pour out, then they're not looking for an answer. Yeah. So you just don't answer. But I think that's a good idea. If you have a sense that maybe somebody's not going to like your answer, just say, do you really want to hear my answer? And then if they say yes, you tell them. Yeah. Because this lying that goes on in social situations like this, to not harm a friendship. For me, it harms the friendship. Okay. I had a situation once where somebody lied to me. It was somebody I really trusted. They lied to me. They didn't need to lie to me. They could have told me the truth, because what they lied about was, in my eyes, not a big deal. In their eyes, it looked like a big deal, and that's why they lied. But in my eyes, it was like, okay, tell me that, and then, but because they lied to me, it broke the trust. Yeah. And trust is incredibly important in relationships. If you can't trust somebody, how can you really have a decent relationship with them? Not even a good relationship, just a decent one, So I think we need this kind of social lying that goes on all the time, I don't think it's so good.
So thinking about the precepts, particularly sexual misconduct. So I am a byproduct of sexual misconduct. My mother had me with a married man. So my birth harmed another family. Also has been a source of joy for another side of the family. And, you know, I didn't necessarily have to do with that, the cause of my mother and father getting together. And I try to make good on that birth, not, you know, I like to believe that I'm contributing more good to the world than the harm that my birth caused to a few people. And so maybe, you know, my harmful birth is a, you know, harmful to my father's side of the family, is a net good, possibly, for the world. And so, you know, like, this is an example of, like, if my father had precepts and kept his sexual misconduct and I didn't come into the world, you know, it's like, I guess what I'm trying to make sense of and work with is if negative actions, you know, yield some sort of.
So everybody should go around having affairs.
No, that's not. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just trying to make sense
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
this in the
Okay,
context.
first of all, you had no role in sexual misconduct. You had no role. What happened? It's your mother, your father who created the karma. You did not. Okay? Yeah. Clearly, you had the karma to have a human rebirth. Okay? Clearly, you had the karma to be born in a place, the good, what we call completing karma, a good situation. You had food, you got an education, da 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 da. If they hadn't been your parents, your karma would have attracted you to another kind of family. And you would have still had a human rebirth and had the kind of conditions around you that you have now. You know, clearly in a previous life, I mean, because you're interested in Dharma now, you had some contact with the Dharma in previous lives, some kind of faith, made some, you know, all of us here, you know, not just him. Yeah, we had some contact with the Dharma and we had some faith and we made some prayers, and this life we were able to encounter the Buddhist teachings. So the force of your previous karma, yeah, would have led you to a precious human life. Okay. So it didn't have to be with that mother and father. Yeah. But you had that mother and father, and you have a precious life, so make good use of it. Yeah. That makes some sense to you?
Could you please explain how one can stay safe but still be generous? I'm thinking of my experience in South Africa, where there is often risk of having a smash and grab, but at the same time, I want to be generous. Of course, there is an unnecessary fear of people who are poor, but there are still so many cases of smash and grab.
Okay. You can still, okay. With smash, if yes, you can be generous and give to people who need and give to organizations who provide for people who are impoverished. Okay, give to the food bank, give to whoever, yeah, give to organizations that help improve the quality of the schools in those kind of areas, yeah. So you can be generous like that. Now, they say that if somebody steals something from you, okay, so this doesn't have to be a smash and grab situation, that person is creating negative karma by stealing from you. If you care about the other person, you might mentally give the what was stolen from you to the person who stole it. Okay, so I was doing retreat one time and in India, and somebody broke into my retreat hut when I was out taking a walk, and they took my clock. I didn't have very much of value. So they took my clock. Okay. And then I came back. But my clock was important. It's what got me up in the morning, So I just said, okay, it's gone. I'm not going to recover it. I mentally gave it to them. Okay. So in some situations, you may want to do that. If you don't feel, if you feel like you want it back and you want to help that other person learn not to steal, then you might report it and have, somebody look for whatever it was that was stolen from you. Okay. So that's your choice. Generosity doesn't mean that, you leave your doors unlocked and, everybody can come take whatever they want. Okay. But, it involves not being miserly and giving when we have the opportunity for it. Okay, so just ask. I hope that helps the person who asked the question. Okay. While we're doing questions and answers, please excuse us, Merritt Field. We'll, we're coming. Okay, so somebody said, what should we do when we can't completely extract the impure motivation? Is it just not to give? That doesn't seem quite right and a convenient excuse to be miserly. You're right. Okay. Do we wait until there's a fully pure motivation? And what if we can't get there just yet? Okay, so remember I told you yesterday about people in the West who say, oh, those people who believe in karma, they're being generous just to create merit, so in a future life they'll be rich. That's so selfish, so I'm just not going to give. Yeah? Is that, is that the proper response? You can't, or in this situation, you can't get to you make your mind purely, with a totally 100% pure motivation. So then, you keep everything for yourself. It's a wonderful way to remain miserly. I've used it on many occasions. Okay. I think it's good to give anyway. Yeah. Because it helps us, even though we have to, there's resistance in our mind to giving, or there's an impure motivation. It's good to give as long as what we give is not harmful to the other person or harmful to anybody else. Okay. I think it is good to give and so really look at this thing about being harmful. If we're giving to somebody else in order to manipulate them to get something for ourselves, that could be harmful to the other person. Okay, so you want to not give to get something that is going to actually harm the other person. Kind of like bribing. Yeah. You give something as a bribe. Oh, yes, I'm being very generous. Here's some extra money for your family. Let's go out to this really fancy-dancy restaurant, and talk about business. And so it's a way of manipulating somebody. It's a form of socially accepted bribery. Okay. I have friends in Singapore who tell me that in order to close any business deal, when they deal with people in mainland China, this is the way you have to close the business deal. Yeah, and you give a little present. And, Yeah. So that kind of thing, you may say, oh, well, I'm being generous, I'm practicing giving, but that kind of giving is definitely harmful, okay? Because it's really winding up cheating other people out of money or positions or whatever that they should have, you know? Okay, but if it's just something you know, where it's not doing some kind of harm to somebody, it's good to kind of push yourself sometimes. Okay, you know what story's coming now? Okay. It's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, and some people have heard it many, many times. So once upon a time, okay, if you are a monastic, yeah, finding maroon clothes, a monastic in the Tibetan tradition, finding maroon clothes is difficult. Getting robes, you can have them made in India or whatever, but maroon jackets, maroon sweaters, things that you have to, you know, it's hard because sometimes maroon isn't always the color that's fashionable that year. So I was in Japan way back, I don't know what year it was, and I was giving some talks and staying with a couple, and they gave me a maroon cashmere sweater. Yeah, so first of all, maroon, hard to get. Cashmere, soft, nice, warm. Yeah, it fit perfectly. So I loved that sweater. So this must have been in the early 90s. Yeah, because the other part of the story happened in maybe 95, 96. Okay. So then, a couple of years later, I was invited to go, I had mentioned before, to some of the Soviet countries to teach. Yeah. And so I was traveling with a translator, and we arrived in Kiev, Ukraine, after an overnight train ride. And we weren't taking the train to Donetsk until that evening. So we had the whole day in Kiev. And so he said, I have a friend in Kiev, let me call her, and we can spend the day with her. So he called Sasha. She said, welcome, come over. So we went to spend the day with Sasha. Okay, so Sasha was young. She was in her early 20s. She was about as tall as I was, you know, my size. And it was clear she didn't have a lot of money, but she, you know, took out the goodies for us because we were guests. So we had a nice lunch. And she brought out special chocolate. Again, we knew that this wasn't just, you know, what she ate herself. She was saving it for guests. So she was just incredibly kind and generous to us. And then in the evening, we got on the tram, or it wasn't a subway, the streetcar, what do you call it? You know, some kind of public transportation to go to the train station to catch our train to Donetsk. So Sasha and Igor were talking, and I was standing there. You know, they were speaking in Russian, and the thought entered my mind: why don't I give my maroon cashmere sweater to Sasha? She's been so kind to us today. You know, and she clearly doesn't have very much. I should give it to her. And like a flash of lightning, the thought came in my mind, no, this is my cashmere sweater. And then the other thought came, but she's been so kind, you know? I mean, don't you want to show some gratitude towards her? She has other clothes to wear. Oh, come on, think about it, you know? And thus developed this civil war, okay? Standing on the tram in Kiev, my friends chatting, nobody else knows that it's, you know, the Yankees and the the Southerners fighting each other in my heart. I don't know which side was which, but the issue was a maroon cashmere sweater. And so, you know, we're getting closer to the airport, to the train station. And I'm going, just give it to her. No, it's packed in your suitcase. You can't give it to her. You know, you're going to have to open up your suitcase. You can open up the suitcase in the airport. In the train station. It's not a problem. No, because we're going to get there and we'll board the train and it'll be really inconvenient. Oh, come on, think about it. So we get to the train station, okay? So Sasha says, excuse me for a minute, and she goes off, and she comes back with a bag of sweetbread. You know, that's what's Danish, what we call Danish rolls, you know, because she wanted us to have something nice to eat when we traveled. Children, give her that sweater. No. You're never going to get another maroon cashmere sweater. She will like that sweater so much. Look how kind she's been to you. Really, it's too inconvenient. We're in the middle of the train station now. I can't open the suitcase here. And anyway, we have to board the train right now. Well, when we're on the train, you can open your suitcase there and give her the sweater. Yeah, it's not buried deep in the suitcase. No, because if I open the suitcase there to pull out the sweater, the train's going to start to move. And Sasha will have to jump out and she'll get hurt because she's jumping out of a moving train. How likely is that to happen? Very likely. Keep the sweater. Listen, you've been a Buddhist for how many years? Geshe Now Darge has been giving you teachings on the benefit of generosity, and you're acting like this? Let me think about it. So we get on the train, okay, and they put the suitcase under the bed. Well, the suitcase is under the bed. Now it's even more inconvenient. Remember what Geshe Darge has been teaching you? Remember what all your other teachers have been teaching you? So I pulled the suitcase out, opened it up. The train was not moving. I pulled the sweater out. I gave it to Sasha. And her face lit up with this incredible joy. And I said to myself, what was going on with me that I was clinging to this sweater that, look how much joy it gave to somebody else. Then they sounded the whistle for the train to start moving. Sasha got off, closed the suitcase. It went back under the bed. Yeah, it was warm in Donetsk. I didn't need the sweater when we were there. We were there for a week. We came back. Sasha met us at the airport, at the train station again. And it was warm out, but she was wearing the sweater. And you could tell that she liked it. And I felt so good. And it was like, wow, you know, how could I have had so much resistance when not, I mean, it makes her feel good and it makes me feel good to make her feel good. Yeah. And that was it. So the moral of the story is nudge yourself. I had to more than nudge myself. I had to give myself a good kick in the pants. Okay. Um, but it can be good to do that. Okay, the second part of this person's question. This topic is especially useful now as I've been staying with various family, and recent events staying with some family members made me feel like I was inconveniencing them. So the impulse was to give money arises, and I see it's from an impure motivation out of obligation and guilt, because I feel like, I'm inconveniencing them. And so I do want to repay their kindness, but it's feeling pretty transactional. I'm giving to them because they're being inconvenienced by me staying there, and I feel guilty about it. The transactional nature of this is coming from your own mind. Yeah, because the impulse is, I don't want to feel guilty. Okay. In the situation, switch it right then and there. Even if it's just on the level of words, it's not giving yourself a kick in the pants, which we sometimes need. Yeah. And just say, instead of focusing on, I feel guilty because they're inconvenienced, focus on how kind they've been, how generous they've been, even though it's, been inconveniencing for them, but still they let me stay at their house. Still they open their doors to me. And I really appreciate their kindness and generosity. So instead of feeling guilt, feel that you've been the recipient of kindness. When you see that you've been the recipient of kindness, then automatically we want to give back. So it's not even a thing, if you don't like the word repay kindness, because that makes it feel transactional, say, I experienced kindness. I appreciate generosity. I want to give back. Yeah. And so give with that kind of motivation. Yeah. Let me do something that will help make them feel happy. Yeah. They helped me out and made me feel happy. I want to do something to express my gratitude, and so that they will feel happy. So whether it's you give them money, or you take them out for a meal, or you give them something else they could use, yeah, it's, help yourself to feel good about giving.
A little piece for clarification. It's also that she may be making some assumptions about their motivation and that they're being inconvenienced. Perhaps saying, I have been here for a while and you folks have been so generous. Is there some way that I can help out while I'm here?
Yeah.
To be a little bit more transparent and not assume that there's something going on in their minds that she's not quite clear about.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. Instead of assuming that they're being inconvenienced, attribute a good motivation to them instead of attributing our motivation to them. Yeah, that if we had people staying at our house, we would be inconvenienced. So therefore, they must feel, no, they must, might be feeling very happy. Yeah. Yeah. And it could be something else is going on in their life, or it just could be, your brother, you're having a chance to reconnect with your brother in a way that you haven't, because you've been living in different places for a while. Yeah. So don't attribute inconvenience to somebody else. Mm-hmm.
When I first went back to Singapore after college and was living with my parents, I told them, oh, I want to make sure I pay you rent for utilities and all that. And they went through the roof. You know, they're like, that's just the worst possible thing in the Asian context. Of course you have to stay with us, and how could you calculate this and la 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 la. They were very, very upset. But once I said, oh, every month I'm just going to offer you part of my salary because I'm so grateful for you bringing me up. It's the same amount. They were like, oh, good. That's like part of the duty of the child, you know? And the amount is like, they don't care about the actual amount. But when I called it rent, it was so insulting to them. I was really surprised.
Yeah, yeah. But when you want to share what you earn with them, then they could accept it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And also because when you shared, you were acknowledging their kindness to you. If you pay them rent, that's transactional. Yeah. So in this case, if she says to her brother, you know, I just want to pay you rent for letting me stay with you, you know, I want to express my gratitude for what you did that was very kind. You know, because it's acknowledging their kindness, and it makes them, you know, feel, oh yeah, you know, no matter what their motivation was, they did feel, oh yeah, you know, it was good. I'm glad I did that.
If we are the recipients of impure generosity, and that is indeed the case, how can we be skillful recipients of impure generosity?
You're thinking of a specific situation. Could you tell me the impure motivation or something about the situation?
Well, if let's say you are staying with someone for an extended period of time, and they're not your mother or father, they're I don't know, a cousin or something. They don't really want you around, but they have some social obligation or some like cultural obligation that you're my family, so I guess you have to stay with me. And so they let you do that. They let you stay with them even though they don't really want to, but there's like, you know, this ulterior cultural familial motive going on.
How do you know that they feel that way?
Well, I suppose one might not. I mean, I've never been in this situation. I'm just thinking that could arise. And I do know just from observing friends, families, and my own family, people do things that they don't quote unquote want to do, but feel obligated to do. And you know, I suppose we don't know what people's motivations.
We have no idea, you know? And so instead of imputing a motivation, and you're staying, if we use the example of staying with somebody, make the visit and the staying with them, make it a happy occasion. Chip in, you know, take the garbage out. That's a big winner. You know, if you take the garbage out, people love you. Okay? And you know, it's like, I don't want to take garbage out. That's why we should take the garbage out. Who do we think we are that other people should take our garbage out, you know? And so instead, bring up the attitude in your own mind that you want this to be something pleasant for them. And so you want to, you know, help around the house. You go to the store and buy some groceries or buy something that you know they will really like and bring it back and offer it. You know, there's many ways to show your gratitude, even if those, you know, we don't know they're feeling inconvenience, but even if they did, again, that's their thing. We can still show kindness in reaction, in response.
I just want to back up actually both of you in this because I actually have this situation at my house right now. I'm hosting a friend whose mother died of cancer recently, and he had nowhere else to go, and I didn't really have space in my house for another person to live there, but I grudgingly made it anyway because I knew there was really nobody else where he would actually be happy staying with. So I feel like there's kind of a mixed motivation there. It's like I was grudging and at the same time also feeling kindness and compassion. And I think that what you said about, you know, this person does, they take out the garbage and the recycling, and when they can, they purchase groceries and that kinds of things. And it does help. It definitely does help. It kind of offsets that a little bit. But I guess I don't really have a point. I just want to bring a real life scenario that's happening. That's what both of you were talking about.
Yeah.
I was really relating to that.
Yeah. And have you changed your motivation about having him stay there?
Yes, actually, there's been times where he's gone away to like visit other friends sometimes, and I miss him when he goes away. So yes.
Yeah. 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 And having somebody stay with you, it really gives you a chance to get to know them in a way that you wouldn't get to know them otherwise. Because I stay with other people all the time. Yeah. And I much prefer to stay with people when I'm traveling. I don't like being in a hotel, even if they pay for it. You know, it's like, ugh. So, yeah, you get to know people in a really nice way. Okay, let's do our prayers. And then there's another question that's an important one that we'll get to. Okay. So now this is quite an interesting question. Okay, so from the teachings, the attachment to my stuff makes a lot of sense. And on a general level, I get the attachment to things, my ego and stuff like that. Where I struggle is when it comes to things like my rights. Okay, for example, as a woman, it is not uncommon for she uses differential, but I think, well, differential discriminating treatment in society and the marginalization of some groups, wisdom, blacks, people of color, indigenous people, and the privileging of others. So how does Buddhism make sense of things like rights when it is clear some are given more rights and privileges than others? Okay. So here, I think the issue, is it more about my or is it about rights? And when I was thinking about this question, what does rights mean? Yeah, what does it mean to have rights? And I'll just share some preliminary thoughts on this. Initially, you know, as I grew up, what rights meant was equal treatment or equal potential, equal possibility. Okay, what I hear, and that's, you know, a very important value to me. What I hear now in society when people say my rights, because it isn't being said by the same people it was being said by during the days of the civil rights and women's movement, when it was always said by people who were really, truly not treated equally. What I hear my rights used for, not always, but there's a loud broadcasting, yeah, when it comes to my rights not to wear a mask, my rights not to have the vaccine, okay, my rights to carry a gun. Yeah, Texas just passed a new law that as long as you're 21, you can buy a gun, you can open carry it, you don't need a license, you don't need a background check, You don't need weapon training. All you need to do is go and buy your gun, and you have the rights to carry it into the supermarket, the church, anywhere, you want to take it, probably, except not into the place where there are the people who made this law, because they don't want to get hurt. Okay, so we hear my rights used in that kind of way now, yeah? And there, my rights isn't, as I look at it, and some people will probably disagree, it isn't, that there is evident factual knowledge that people are not being treated equally and given the same possibility in society. But here, my rights being screamed a lot seems to mean I want to do whatever I want to do, and I don't want anybody to stop me. Okay, do you have that feeling from how my rights, in South Dakota, they went ahead and had this Sturgis, not bicycle, biker thing. For the second time, they had it during the pandemic last year. This year, it was even bigger and better, spread COVID even more, completely fine with the government. The South Dakota governor, as we know, is just, she has ambitions of her own. But it seems to me, my rights means I want to do what I want to do, and I don't care about the effect on anybody else, because it's my rights. And what it makes me think a lot of is His Holiness Dalai Lama. He doesn't talk about rights so much, but he says whenever you have a privilege, which could be rights or a privilege, whenever you have privilege, you have responsibility. Yeah. And here I don't mean, he's not using privilege the way it's often used in America. Yeah. He's using whenever you have some benefit. Yeah. Whenever you have some benefit, you have also responsibility. And he's been saying that for years, and it's really made me think a lot, because it's true. When we have some benefit that maybe other people don't have, or when we have, just some possibility, it's not even a benefit that everybody wants, but when we have some possibility that we appreciate, it comes with some responsibility, For example, like not everybody wants to go to college, but when you have the opportunity to go to college and you take it, it comes with some responsibility, because somebody else could have had that place. And, you're getting something that's directly benefiting you. Okay? So what disturbs me about when people are genuinely asking for their rights that are ensured by the Constitution, and it's obvious it was ensured a long time ago, but they're still not getting it, then my rights, that's very important. People speak up. But this right, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to take the vaccine. I don't want to protect people through not having massive guns all over the place available. In other words, I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want anybody to tell me anything else. I feel that as members of society, where we are dependent on each other so much, that it's not suitable to say, I want to do what I want to do and yours. Okay? Yeah. You can impute the vulgarity if you want to, but that's kind of the way it's said. Because we live dependent on each other. Yeah. And I could say, well, try and make people feel guilty. Yeah, you should give something back. But the way His Holiness explains it is, we live together with other people. And if we don't contribute to their benefit, and if we have more benefit than they do, and when we don't care what how our actions affect others detrimentally, and we just do what we want without caring, in actual fact, we are harming ourselves. Okay? Because when we're just act out of a selfish motivation and feel entitled to things, then other people are left without, and then we live together with other people who are unhappy. Okay? Now, if you live in a society with people who are unhappy, they aren't just going to say, oh, yeah, that's wonderful. I'm I'm so glad that you have the joy of not wearing a mask. Yeah, people are going to say, hey, please think about the effect of your actions on us. And this came really true to me when I lived in Seattle. There was a bill, what do you call it? Like a referendum, on, so it was voters determining it. And it was on whether to raise the property tax because the schools need more money. Okay, so there was a big voice against raising property tax, and who was speaking? It was the people who were wealthy, who were going to have to pay more. And the people who were wealthy often didn't have kids in the public school system. If they were young people who were wealthy, they sent their kids to a private school. And usually, so very often, it's older people who are wealthy because they've accumulated the wealth by working a number of years. So their kids were already grown. So, they don't want to pay for the education of somebody else's children. So there was a lot of resistance. And I thought, okay, if the school bond doesn't pass and the schools don't get more assistance, and they cut the after-school activities for children, and they cut some of the special education needs, and they cut, different programs for kids, what's going to happen to these kids? Well, the kids, if they don't have after-school sports and stuff like that, then they're going to be on their own. Yeah, what happens to kids in middle school and high school who are on their own when both parents are working? So they're on their own in the afternoon. They're what is it called? Latchkey kids. Okay. What are they going to do? Okay, they're going to probably get into trouble, because there's they can't go play sports. They can't go do arts and crafts at school. Yeah, so they're going to hang on the streets. Yeah, they'll meet people who have drugs. They'll need money for not only drugs, but just to get candy bars and other stuff they want. So whose houses are they going to rob? Yeah, whose houses are they going to break into? Whose cars are they going to break into? The cars of the wealthy people, the houses of the wealthy people, who coincidentally happen to be the people who didn't want to pay more property tax. Okay, so it's a perfect example. You act just out of your own thinking for yourself, but then you wind up suffering because of it. Yeah. Whereas if you think to take care of others and you take care of these kids, yeah, they're not going to get into drugs. They're not going to be hanging on the streets. They're not going to be breaking into people's houses. Yeah. They'll have extracurricular activities. Slow kids who need remedial help will have that help. Okay. And this benefits all of society because we're all interrelated. Okay. The same thing goes for the prison system. Society has this view of just lock people up and throw away the key. We lose out on the contributions that so many intelligent people could make because as a society, we think punishment is what they deserve and let's humiliate them as much as possible. And this doesn't serve to anybody's benefit. Okay. I just read an article about somebody, an inmate in DC who murdered somebody, I don't know, a couple of decades ago when he was 16, imprisoned, life with, usually without parole or with very difficult to get sentence reduction. And he worked really hard on himself, improving himself. There was I forget, there was some initials, but it was some kind of public office that represented a certain area of town. He ran for that office from prison and he won. Yeah? And he won. And, so he is serving in that official capacity. He said the difficult thing is he can't meet with the people he's representing face to face. So he does it by Zoom, and the prison, had to give him access to email now. And his email box is filled with people writing him. Yeah. I thought, what an excellent example, because he's somebody who has really done something useful out of his life. A lot of these, especially the kids who have been imprisoned when they were young, tried as adults, thrown away. One of them is making the videos for the Abbey. Yeah, he got paroled. Another one of them that I know arranged in his prison for a whole educational system of videos. He did all the video work and this kind of thing so that all the inmates in his prison have access to educational videos. I mean, he has some talent that's some, with things that I don't understand at all. Yeah. So, we don't give people a chance. And it's to our own detriment as a society that we do this. Okay. It's the same thing with the immigrant situation. Yeah. I mean, these are the people who, and I'm not saying this because I think it's necessarily good, but these are the people who are on the front lines very often during COVID. They stock the supermarket shelves. Yeah, they deliver the groceries to people's homes. They're working at the gas stations. They're working at the checkout counters. They're the home health care workers. They're the people in the hospitals. They make very little money because they're immigrants, but they're happy to have a job and they're happy to serve. And then the country turns around and doesn't want to let them be legal citizens. And yet these people suffer more from COVID than anybody else because they're on the front lines. Yeah. So when we have this attitude, either as individuals or as a society, and we do it in the name of my rights, like, what I do doesn't matter to other people. If I don't wear a mask, who cares if other people get sick? If I don't take the vaccine, who cares, if other people get sick? Even my own family. I want the right not to take the vaccine. So if I get sick and die, who cares about my kids? Who cares about my spouse? I want the right not to take the vaccine. To me, it's like society, we have the privilege of living together with other people and receiving benefit from their labor with whatever job they do in society. Whenever we have benefit, we have responsibility. Yeah, so it isn't just my right, it's my responsibility to wear a mask, to get the vaccine, yeah, to not carry a gun that somebody else could use, or that would actually, if you have a gun in your house, you're more likely to be harmed by a gun. Yeah? And your kids are in more danger. There was just, a few years ago, there was a thing just in Hayden, 45 minutes away. A 2-year-old was, a mother with her toddler was in it was either Walmart or Target, one of those big stores. And the mother had a pistol or a gun of some sort. It was in her purse, which was supposed to be child-proof or, so kids couldn't pull it out. Anyway, her toddler pulled it out, was playing with it. Mom didn't realize what the kid was doing, and the toddler accidentally killed his mom. Yeah. So my right to own a gun. What harm did that do to the child? Child's growing up without a mom, and the child, even though it was no fault of his own, he had no intention to kill his mom, he's going to feel awful. Yeah, there was just another article about a 5-year-old killing his mom. We have responsibility to take care of each other because what happens to other people affects us too. So, because Holiness says, if you want to be selfish, be wisely selfish and do it by taking care of other people. And if you want to go beyond being wisely selfish, take care of other people because you care about them too. Yeah. But so this whole thing of my rights, meaning I want to do whatever I want to do and I don't care the effects on others, to me, it's shooting yourself in the foot, and it's harmful to society in general. So I get off my soapbox, but this person, it's not my fault I went on a soapbox. This person made me do it. And you know how I am with my soapboxes. Yeah.